All right. So if you're just joining us, we are Shannon Morse and Lisa Kirby, and we're doing these podcasts, streaming through Facebook as well, live for our Elevated Frequency podcast. And I'm sitting here, obviously, if you're watching us live, with the lovely Lisa Kirby. Hello, Lisa.
Hello, Miss Shannon. And just so everybody knows, where are you, Shannon? Where are you tuning in from?
I am currently in Nashville, Tennessee. Yes.
Yeah. And I am right outside Austin, Texas, which we always crack up that we're both from Northern California, and now we are in the South-ish.
Yes. That's right. We are both Bay Area born and raised, and now we've transitioned.
Yes.
Transitioned into a different kind of slower living sometimes, but not really.
more time to focus on what lights us up and what we want to do, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so on that topic, if you're joining us, this is our episode 3. So we're just kind of getting the ball rolling here, covering a number of different topics every time. But today we're going to focus a little bit more on movement. So in terms of movement, if you aren't a member of the Green Door Life and you don't know much about what we do in the movement capacity, we have live virtual classes that we're holding every week, and they include progressive strength training programs, metabolic conditioning, stretching. We're introducing mobility. We've had yoga, we've had Pilates. We basically have tried to have a little bit of everything, and then we just kind of see what sticks and what provides the most value for our clients and community members. So we're going to dig in a little bit today on why we recommend and program the way that we do inside of the Green Door. And what better way to start this out than asking Lisa what her experience has been like? Because if you guys don't know, I do the programming and then everyone else is just following along. So Lisa, what has it been like for you transitioning to the programming that we do in the Green Door Life now?
Well, I've been lifting weights for about 20 years, beginning in college. So like coming after high school and then realizing, if I don't play a sport, which I wasn't in college, like, my body is changing very rapidly here. I better get into like exercise. So I started lifting in early 2000s. So women were not in the weight room. I'm totally dating how old I am at this point. Women were not in the weight room at all. Like there was one other chick in what we called like the pit. And I would just watch what everyone else is doing. This was like, I don't even remember the internet it was like maybe Amazon when it was selling books was available. But it was like, you couldn't just look up online workouts. It wasn't like that. So I'm just looking around at what all the dudes were doing and kind of mimicking them and hoping I wasn't messing anything up. So started there and evolved, trying out all the different modalities, everything from like bootcamp classes to powerlifting when I was pregnant. That was really, really, really fun. Worked with some amazing trainers who worked with like professional athletes all the way to not so great trainers, and started to kind of understand that the caliber of knowledge and excellence in personal trainers, at least in my experience, was so varied. And some of my best trainers were not certified, and so that's what's like, that part's very interesting for, the common population. If you're going into a gym and you hire a personal trainer and you're expecting like, they have my best interest in mind, they care about what I'm expressing, what I want, what I need, it's just not always true. And so what I noticed, the biggest difference, especially just recently, since about August this year, I've been doing only Green Door Life workouts, which has been such a joy, just like mentally to not think about anything. And so I've been focusing on, 3 days a week with our progressive strength training, and then 2 days a week of metabolic conditioning, which is a little faster, lighter weights, definitely shorter, but like very intense. And my body is just like responding. And it's so fun to play around with because we've been doing this for so long. And I'm always amazed at like how the body can change when you give it different inputs. And we don't know until we try it. And so my hesitation was always like, oh, it's not going to be enough. Like, I've been training forever and I need to do a different type of training. Like, I need to lift super heavy because it's just not challenging enough. And now I've like humbly been like, I'm just humbled and I will do whatever you tell me to. Because it's like all the bulk is like gone and my body's just like, I feel so strong, and especially in my core. That is
Mhm.
the biggest piece that I always would skip. I hate training core. And now I don't mind it because I'm strong in my core. So, oh, it's been epic. Thank you.
Thank you. You're so welcome. It's so interesting to kind of hear, because if you are listening, male, female, just something to kind of have as a caveat here is that, different training styles will solicit different responses with different body types. And what's really cool about Lisa and myself is we have two essentially different body types. We both probably are kind of teetering in the mesomorphic body type, but Lisa is more trending towards a meso-endo body type, which is like she can build muscle really easily. She's very strong in her legs and lower body. She has more of a pear shape, where I am more so mesomorph. I will build muscle easily, but if I stop lifting, I lose it like in 2 weeks. It's like it's gone.
Okay.
Very wild. So I'm more trending towards the ectomorphic body type. I have a little bit like long, leaner, kind of longer limbs and that sort of thing. If I don't train and if I don't eat enough, my butt disappears like immediately. So when we look at different training programs, what's cool that we've kind of developed over the course of these years is that, we have to take body type into consideration. And inside of this, with progressive training, it really depends on what your goal is, So progressive training, just right out of the gate, this is what progressive training is. It's essentially giving your body the information that it's going to be doing something repeatedly over a period of time and increasing its weight, tension, reps, or intensity each time it does it. And so with our framework, we have 12-week series, and each 4 weeks, there is a new block. So each 12 weeks has 3 4-week blocks. And what we do inside of that is the first 4 weeks, it's all the same exercises. So each week you're looking to lift a little bit heavier. And then the second block of 4 weeks is now looking at basically making those exercises we did in the first 4 weeks a little bit harder. Whether it's changing the where the load is placed on the body, but then asking the body, okay, now you got really good at the first thing. Now let's do it a little bit harder and get really good at the next thing. And then it further progresses from there. And the reason for you guys why we do it this way is that the body responds to increased imposed demand, which means that if you are doing the same, if you're doing the same thing with the same weight, like if you can do 5 push-ups and you do 5 push-ups every day, well, guess what? Your body's going to be really good at doing 5 push-ups, but it's not going to adapt and need to change because you're not telling it that it needs to adapt and change. So when we look at progressive training, each time you're telling it, hey, right where you're like reaching that uncomfortable place, that's where we want to push it next. And then your body will adapt and change. That's not as applicable if you're changing up your workouts every day. And if you're just choosing random things, or you're going to berries on Mondays and then Peloton on Tuesdays. And it's not to say that those can't be beneficial for you, but if you do have specific goals and you want to see your body change in such a way and you want to get certain things stronger, then you're going to have to be able to have specific measures to find the specific results. And that's generally what we see, that most of our members who are coming into us, either very new, they've never strength trained before, really like with progressive training in their life, or they've been doing it for a while and just kind of haphazardly like choosing whatever program that they find on Instagram or YouTube or in one of their training books from the 90s, Yeah. And then, but they don't really understand or keep the consistency of it to actually track their progress and see why they're changing in such a way. So what's really cool about listening to you, Lise, about this is that I've totally seen your body loves to lift heavy weight because your body is so good at it. Like your legs are so freaking strong. And so the body is basically going to tell you that it's like, this is my comfort zone. I feel like I should be doing this. I should be doing this all the time. I should lift heavy weights because that's where I like to be. But then doing the higher intensity stuff and doing the higher repetition stuff for you, you're like, oh, what?
Yes.
So what was it like for you transitioning into that style more so? Because I know you did it before, but
Yeah, yes, I've done, a couple of years ago, I think it was in 2020 when we first started doing like group online training, and we were doing like the trisets with the high reps, like 15, 20 reps. I was dying. I mean, it was like you were getting cardio, strength training, all the things. And I had a very similar response in my body. And then we traveled in a van for a year, and I was like on a different time zone and kind of did my own thing. But now being back in a grounded place and house and doing the workouts again, it's humbling. It's so humbling for me because I find it mentally so challenging. It's a different kind of burn. And we'll get into that more, but it's not my default, oh, explosive, strong, like that. It's easy to me. And now it's making me more empathetic because I'm like, okay, how I like loathe high rep, single leg, single arm movements is probably how a lot of people feel about lifting heavy. So it's like, yeah, this is hard for me. And we've talked about this a lot. The thing that is most challenging to you is probably the thing that you need to do more of. So my routine before was like, get in all legs, lift heavy, no core. I'm like, oh, I'm working my core with the barbell. I do front squats. I'm fine. And it's like, yeah, that can build a lot of muscle in your core, but not the same, like not obliques. There were all these like new muscles popping like in the first 2 weeks of doing our training. And I was like texting Shannon pictures of my abs. I'm like, what is this thing? Like, what is this new muscle that's like appearing over here? Never seen that before. So it's humbling, and I would say it's more mentally challenging for me. And then also almost like you can feel a little bit of like lactic acid when you go into the higher rep ranges. And I just, it burns. It's like, it kind of hurts to me.
yes, it can. Mm-hmm, for
So,
sure.
but it's so funny because our group who's been training regularly, we just got out of that kind of higher rep range and single leg, unilateral movements. And we're all complaining about it, like jokingly, but we're also like, but please, let's keep doing this. If it works, we'll do whatever you say. So we're all like, let's shut up and stop complaining, because then she won't program what we really need. So
this is funny to hear what's going on behind the scenes. In the side commentary. Yeah. But it's really so cool. And it's really cool when we actually see clients go through and stick to it, because it doesn't matter how many people go through transformations. I'm always like, wow, the body is so incredible, so incredible. And it responds so quickly when we decide that to change or give it new information. And it's just so, so cool. And what we say all the time is, the secret is just don't stop. The secret is just don't stop. When you find something that's, working for you and that feels good in your body. And I also want to just stress the experience of when you feel like something is hurting, we're not saying to push past that hurt where it doesn't feel like it's comfortable at a joint. Where you feel like you might be pulling something, or you're really not sure what form you should be in terms of your training. Like your form is very, very, very important when you're doing vertical loading. And so this is why when we're doing our live training, it's really what we do is we can keep repeating how to set up the body to take on load, keep repeating the checkpoints, because there will be so many individuals where, when I do go into a muggle gym, whatever. When I do go into a regular gym, I'll look around, and actually here in Nashville, I'm like, wow, people are awesome. Their form is great. But
yeah.
Yes. But in some other places, I'll look around and I'll be like, oof, and anyways. So it's been an interesting process to just like be able to watch, and as long as they're not really going to get injured, but also seeing that there's a way to get the maximum benefit out of what you're doing when you are intentional about the practice. And you're going in not just to go through the movements, but to actually understand why you're moving in such a way, what the muscle is that you're actually soliciting a contraction of, and then really focusing on using your breath to further like bring that oxygen into your body so that your muscles can do what they are meant to do. And so all of these things combined, for me, it's funny, like when we were doing those higher rep single leg exercises for the first 4 weeks of our current phase, it becomes meditational for me because I just keep going through the checkpoints and I keep bringing my attention into where's your heel, where's your knee, where's your hips, where's your rib cage, where's your shoulders, where's your head, where's your heels, where's your, and I keep just adjusting, just tiny adjustments over and over again. That works for me. Doesn't mean it works for everybody.
No, I know exactly. I totally agree. You get into a meditative place. Okay, this is weird, but I think about labor when I do. And not like it's painful, but just getting like mentally getting through something that is, I would say it's more uncomfortable. It's not like it hurts. It's like uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Would I rather be doing a front squat? Yes, because that comes easier to me. But I think about labor and how I used my breath, and really you're using your brain to stay present and focused. One of the biggest things I noticed, Shan, in working with you, like in person and in our classes, was when you're lifting really heavy, especially if you're doing powerlifting or Olympic weightlifting, which I was focused on for a couple of years, your whole focused is like, what's my max rep? How fast can I get the bar up? It's very performance based, and it's less about a mind muscle connection, or at least it was for me. So I remember doing deadlifts and like overhead presses, and you were like, let's slow this down. Like, are you even using your hamstrings to lower the bar? I wasn't. I was using flexibility. I wasn't even engaging my hamstrings on deadlifts. And I wondered why my back hurt all the time. So I think the way our training is set up, no matter what the rep ranges are, like the quality of feedback that you and our instructors give live is just like, it is of the highest caliber in my experience, in my 20 plus years of lifting. And we've even heard from other clients who've been working with personal trainers, and they're like, gosh, I wish my trainer would like talk to me and give me these cues, because this, like, I'm seeing my body change now. So can you share a little bit more about like the mind muscle connection that's kind of missing from some of these like bootcamp classes and other styles of training?
Oh yeah. Well, I would say also, like, the reason that I think I have this kind of infused background into strength training is because my training started with Pilates for rehabilitation. And so inside of that, the breath and this, like, really focusing on the smaller muscle groups was such a honed in element and awareness of Pilates and how you're moving at the joint, and like where your fifth toe is on your foot, like where's the pressure in all of these places, which was really such a blessing for me, because then I got to transition and use that foundation and apply it to my understanding of strength training. So when I was moving into strength training, it was coming through this filter of the Pilates, like very detailed mindset and that orientation. And so with the mind muscle connection, I mean, we can literally think about a muscle on our body and think about it contracting, like I can think about my shoulder and I can think about squeezing underneath my armpit, and then we can either consciously contract something or we can unconsciously move at a joint. Like you're going to raise a high five, you're not really worried about like how you're reaching your arm up. You're just high fiving somebody. Of course, a muscle has to do work, but if you were to imagine like tensing all of your muscles, then going into a high five, it would be a different experience.
Yeah.
And so I think what's really key here with that mind muscle connection is that what we are looking to help people with in all areas of this is understanding what muscles are doing what function, so that we can focus on that contraction, right? Because it's really, really easy. The body, we say this all the time, the body will always choose the path of least resistance. So you can, if you're doing like hip thrusts, for example, you can just lower your butt and raise it back up, without really doing much. But if you start to focus on the contraction of your lower abs and your glutes and really tucking under and keeping your rib cage down and driving through your heels and all of these things, then it becomes like, this is hard. Wait, why wasn't it hard before you told me to do those things? So
Yeah.
it's really this thing that is, yeah, but I think it comes over time. Like, I think if someone is doing strength training or using their body in any way, they just start to kind of build that neural pathway of like, wait, something is happening here.
Yeah.
And when I shift my attention to this is what starts to unfold and occur. And it's an interesting thing. So cool. Yeah, so cool. But then we get into our mobility. So this is what we were talking about even before we started this podcast in our little prep session. But we were talking about mobility, and we had a little mobility session on Tuesday. And Lise, you were kind of sharing what was happening for you in that mobility session. But do you want to share a little bit more?
Yeah. So mobility has been such a luxurious, that's what Shannon and I have been saying. Mobility is luxurious. The older I get, taking the time to mobilize and kind of prep your body, I never warmed up or cooled down. I was the psychopath who like walk into the gym, like, oh yeah, I'm good. Like, I'm just going to go straight to deadlifting like 200 pounds. Anyway, so besides like proper warming up and mobilizing and not static stretching, like actually getting blood flow to your body. When I got paired with the right trainers, I finally started doing that. That wasn't until like my mid-30s. Mid-30s. And then what I've noticed just recently, especially with the volume of training that we're doing right now in the Green Door Life, which I love, to be able to continue doing that and having like a functional body, like I would notice, waking up definitely tighter, sore, all the things. And it was like mobility was like not an option. It was like, no, I have to do this. Like, it was like, if I don't move my body like mobilized, I can't even make my coffee. Like, I was that like tense and sore. And then my body started adapting. And then, I kind of fell off the wagon a little bit. I was doing it every single day, and not like crazy, like 10, 15, 20 minutes. And then we just did the mobility session the other night. And I felt this, like almost within the first like 5 to 10 minutes, just like this total like release, like almost like an emotional release. And the feeling was like just so palpable, so strong, of just like, I feel grounded, I feel relaxed, I feel like the tension has dropped. Like I was like up here, just like so tense. And then everything just dropped. And I've done yoga, I've done Pilates, I've done all these other modalities. And there's something about just mobility flow that just fit. Like, I just really enjoy it so much more. I feel like it actually opens up your joints instead of just stretching. That makes sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because that class that we did on Tuesday, it's not like it's new movements in any way. It's not like it's this like secret modality that isn't done. It's just something that we don't usually do on our own and that we don't do for an extended period of time. But there's a couple of things that I wanted to make sure to touch on there. So for those of you who are watching, when we go through strength training, we really, really recommend, and I say that your warm up is equally, if not more important than the training itself, because if you are very tight in different areas of your body, you won't be able to effectively contract the opposing muscle that's helping to perform that movement. So mobilization and activation of muscle tissue is incredibly important before you go under load or go into any sort of performance, whether it's a sport or it was very important with trapeze. But in terms of just this is something else I wanted to share, is that mobility can look like so many different things. It can be rolling around, doing arm circles, doing hip circles, doing leg circles. It can also be foam rolling. It can also be using a massage gun to help to mobilize the joint. So really getting that blood flow going in. But I think what's cool about this kind of practice of just going through the entire body from like head into rotations at the spine, into bringing breath into it as well, and just doing like a little bit of, adding a little bit of kundalini in there. And all of this, it just kind of really allows the body to just relax and open. And doing it for an hour is luxurious. And
Yes.
it's such a game changer that actually the morning after I was like, I feel so good.
I think everybody was like chiming in, like everybody felt so good. And I did it again today. I did a replay of the class before metabolic conditioning, and I had so much more energy. I felt like my form it just felt so good.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Oh, amazing. And it's like, I wish that it didn't take that long to mobilize.
Totally. I know.
Yeah. I just remember that when I was doing the single point trapeze, which I did for 7 years, which is wild. And I would train 3 days a week. My warm up would be an hour every single day. And then training would be an hour and a half, which means that almost 3 hours, 3 days a week, were just spent.
Yeah. That's why it feels like it feels like a gift to yourself. Really.
Absolutely. Yes, it is.
I'm a huge fan.
Yes, it's so good. Well, we spent a lot of time talking about the movement aspect, but it's very, very important. So for those of you who are watching or listening, and you are looking at either, getting more out of your strength training program, or, that you're tight, but you're not really sure, how to stretch, or, what you should be doing to mobilize or prepare your body to take load. It can be so very, very simple, but starting off with foam rolling is a really great way. And there's going to be so many YouTube videos on YouTube for foam rolling. For all of the movement stuff, we probably have 1,000 single clip tutorials on different strength training movements on YouTube that you can find as well. You can go to, thegreendoorlife.
I think so. Yeah. We'll link it out.
Yeah. So if you guys are like, well, I'm not sure if I'm doing this right, you'll be able to find so many free videos on YouTube. And also, if you want to hear kind of how we go through and break down the movement patterns, you'll be able to see that on YouTube as well through our site. But what else here? What else?
So the other aspect of our strength training, which I really appreciate too, is that, as coined and termed by you, that it's peripheral heart action training. So we're going upper body to lower, or lower body to upper body to lower body to upper body. And it's mostly compound movements. So something I noticed when I was doing, I won't name the boot camp, but I was doing boot camp classes for a while because I just wanted to show up and someone tell me what to do in person. I was having like Zoom burnout. This was in like 2020, 2021. And I got injured within like weeks. Number one, because we were doing the same repetitive motions in insanely high rep ranges. And I was still trying to like lift heavy-ish. But your body starts fatiguing after like 20 reps. I mean, because everything was intervals. You're doing it for time. Yeah. And then that's when I just started really getting over it, because I'm watching these mostly women in this class. And it was like, how many push-ups can you do in 5 minutes or whatever the time thing was? I'm looking around. I was like, I could barely do about 7 at the time with like solid form. Mm-hmm. And I see everybody else, everyone's got like wrist braces and like wraps around their back, like super injured, terrible form, like trying to do like butt sinking, no core activation, like shoulders hunched. And I'm like, I don't think this is correct. And that was kind of it for me. And so it was like lots of bicep curls and tricep extensions, all these kind of, single muscle movements. Mm-hmm. And these crazy high reps. And it was just like women were injured 24/7, not to mention the trainers were telling women to put like a giant scoop of butter or coconut oil in their coffee in the morning before working out. I was like, oh, I can't anymore. This is like out of integrity with everything that I know better about. So with everything that we do at the Green Door Life, it's like everything is intentional. And I've never had programming, especially as a female, that takes so into account not only like overall physical strength, but also like aesthetically what we're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's not a lot of massive quad pumping action, which is great because I already have, my quads are good and they will jump into most lower body movements anyway. So I just so appreciate the aesthetic piece that is involved in all of it. And then also with the core piece, every single movement we do includes the core training. So it's just been, I just can't say enough about it. And I'm like,
I was like, we did not pay Lisa to
no, big fan.
Yeah. I mean, she does get technically paid at some point, but but it's really great to hear too, because this is how I've programmed for so long, and this is just like the way that I've done it for so long. That it's really kind of cool to hear like some of the experiences that you've had. And this is also why, sometimes I do love to work with different trainers. I love to like try out new classes. I definitely needed to, go to Barry's when we had so many clients who were going to Barry's, as I needed to know what this was like and who it would be good for, because for some people it is good, but it's not necessarily something I would recommend as your consistent, week to week training program. It's like a good in addition to whatever you might be doing. But you're so right. It's like, first and foremost, if we don't have the proper form down, then whatever we're doing, whether we're doing it once, or especially if we're doing it 20 times or over the course of 5 minutes, it's going to wreak such havoc on your body. So it's okay to go, hey, this doesn't feel right. And then to either ask someone who's being your instructor in that moment, or to maybe, and this is what I share with our clients, film yourself doing the movement and then watch it and see what your alignment looks like. Watch where your shoulders are, watch where your elbows are, where's your pelvis, like where are all these things, because that's going to be the best feedback system that you can get for your body. So unless you're doing it in front of a mirror, and you're at the gym, but if you're not, and you're doing it, you're just watching someone on a screen or in a class, film yourself, just put up your camera, set it on selfie mode. It's such an amazing tool to be able to self-reflect on where your body is in space, because generally speaking, your body will just go, no, we've always done it this way, so we're just going to keep doing it. But when someone adjusts you, you're going to be like, well, that is harder, or my body doesn't do that, or, and then from there, you're going to learn that maybe it's because you're really tight in certain areas. So your body has a hard time even stacking in that position. And then you open up like kind of the other can of worms of, well, maybe you've been doing push-ups this way because you're so rotated and rounding forwards because your upper traps are tight, and therefore you can't really contract your lats to keep your shoulders down. And so you're getting shoulder injuries, then wrist injuries, and it just compounds and compounds and compounds. So all that to say, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to strength training and movement in the body overall.
There really is. And it's like getting intentional about it, and this is kind of where I toggle the line. Yes, like getting off the couch, getting away from your desk, like any movement, good, get out, move your body. But like for some of us, especially if we're like over exercising or we're just like always pushing our body, especially if you're doing some of these boot camp classes like Orange Theory and CrossFit, it's not just taxing on your muscles, it's taxing on your central nervous system. And for women, that is a huge red flag. Hello, that was me for so long, because then that's going to wreak havoc on your hormones. Mm-hmm. And what's so fascinating now is like what we're doing in the flow that we're doing it in throughout the week. My nervous system feels amazing. It doesn't feel overtaxed. And if anything, I'm like less and less and less inflamed. It's like, it doesn't have to be that intense where you're like laying in a floor and like almost crying. Like I've been to that point. Mm-hmm. Totally not necessary. Really.
Yes. Yeah. Which is strangely like, I feel like this is strangely so common for women with training, Women for some reason feel like, okay, if we're not absolutely feeling like we're dying, then it's probably not doing much for us. And for some reason, I don't feel that males necessarily have had that same sort of issue, right? Because they're usually looking for strength. They're not looking to just like annihilate every ounce of fat that's on their body. And therefore, we're just going to run the fat right off of our system or whatever that might sound like. Um, but what Lisa is pointing to, and what I've certainly learned over the years, is that you do not need to bring yourself to that point of that you feel like you're going to throw up, that you feel like you can't, the full on fatigue. It's one thing to push your muscles into asking it to do a little bit more each time, pushing that boundary of your strength, but not at the risk of injury or really overtaxing your system to where you feel like you're just killing yourself every time that you're going to work out. And what you'll find is when you actually like take appropriate rest, both in your training sessions and throughout the week, and you actually allow your body to rest and recover, then you're going to see the reduced inflammation, the increased muscle gain, the reduced body fat with the appropriate diet, of course. And like all these things are just going to start to come into play. The other thing that I was going to share here is that when people are coming into like doing any new training program, the first couple of weeks, they can expect to have a little bit of inflammation because the body's responding to something new. And then also they're going to expect to have a little bit of the DOMS, the delayed onset muscle soreness, especially for the first 2 weeks. And I was very humbled with this again, because after coming back from Burning Man, I had 2 weeks off essentially. And then I came back to work out and I was like, oh my God, this is so hard.
Right? It's humbling.
Yes. And I was like, I have so much respect for people that are coming into this in the beginning, and that they're just like getting the muscles firing. And the thing to remember is that when you do start a new training program, for the most part, it's not going to be super fun the first 2 weeks. It's going to feel like it's hard. It's going to feel like it's a struggle. It's going to feel like there's a lot of newness, a lot of new things happening, soreness, inflammation, whatever. But in week 3, that's going to have evolved out. And you'll find that you're stronger, you have more energy. The serotonin that you get released in your body after training. I was just kind of riding high on cloud 9 after the Metcon this morning.
Yes.
15 minutes after, I was like, I feel amazing right now.
Totally.
Wow, this is why people need to know about this part, that little like hit of like, ooh, so good.
Yes.
So yeah, we could talk about this forever.
Wow. I have so many more. We'll have to talk about next time. I really want to clarify, especially for women, like if you only have 30 minutes a day, 3 times a week, and you're choosing between like cardio and strength training, our sources say go for strength training. You will get so much more out of it. And then the other thing we can talk about next time is the difference between type 1 and type 2 muscle fibers. And I think my favorite part about progressive strength training is the type 2 muscle fibers takes longer to build over time. But once you build them, really hard to lose, which is great. So then you can go to Burning Man for 2 weeks and then you come back and your body's like, oh, I remember. Might be a little sore, but I remember this. So.
Yes, let's absolutely talk about that next time. Yes, for sure. And for those of you who are listening, watching, however this is coming to you, if you are interested in kind of testing out whatever it is that we do, which we do quite a lot, but inside of the movement piece, you can either join and just drop in for a class and try it out. If you do drop in for a class, we really recommend that you perhaps reach out to us through email and let us know what your experience is with weight training in the beginning. We don't recommend that you come into our weight training classes as a brand new person, just out of respect to some of the people in the class who have been working out with us for years now. But if you are new and you do want to get into strength training, then join the All Access Pass. And then we're going to definitely, which is our monthly subscription, where you get all of the classes for free. You get it in a training app, you get it on demand, you get it live on Zoom. And then that way we can really start to speak specifically to you and how the movements apply to your body. And then we can cue you and basically go on the journey with you together. But if you guys are familiar with strength training and you just want to check out one of our metabolic conditioning classes or strength training classes, you can drop in through our website thegreendoorlife.com, and then just drop into the classes tab at the top of the website.
Yeah. So fun. So fun.
And I think that's it.
Yeah.
For today. Okay.
Yeah. We have to give ourselves bumper lanes, so we'll talk about this forever.
Yes, we could talk for a while. So thank you everyone for joining. It's been a pleasure to be able to talk to Lisa about all these things, and we hope that you got something out of it. We will be doing this live every week at about the same time, until we say otherwise. And you can also find us on Spotify. So if you'd like to find us there, please do. And we look forward to the next round next week.
All right. Thank you, Shan.
Thank you guys. Have a wonderful time.
Hari